Jason Crook from Bohemian Bees joined us for one of our very first Stream Team Beekeeping Chats. In this particular clip, we talked about overwintering bees and different configurations of equipment and different strategies. I hope you enjoy another Stream Team Nugget. I know you guys are frustrated with the cold weather, but I don't know that it's always good that the temperature goes up and down like that. It can be dangerous, I think, in some ways as well if you're not careful.
It's doing the same thing here, probably the same for Brian, where I think, Brian, you're what, 14 or 16 inches of snow? We're about 7.5. Here, it was 55 during the day, and then it's dropping down to 20, and now we've got 2 weeks of cold weather, and then it's going to go bounce. Jason's probably has similar weather where he's at, where it's just the up and down roller coasters. The challenging part. There's a lot of folks who are still trying to get through winter and kind of figure that out. And we all kind of winter different. Jason, where are you at with your bees this winter, and have you found a successful wintering format that seems to prove out year after year for you?
Yeah, and you're right, Greg. And I think the interesting thing is that everyone watches all of our videos and Ian's videos and Brian's videos, and they say, well, what do I need to do with my bees during the winter? And beekeeping is local. It is absolutely local in that how you manage your bees, and just like your honey is different season to season, year to year, because of the nectar flow, because of the type of nectars, so is wintering. There is no one way to winter or overwinter. I learned very quickly that you can coddle your bees and wrap them and feed them and quilt box them and do that, and that's great if you're trying to make sure that 4, 5, 6, 7 hives make it through the winter, right? That's absolutely the only way that I can think of to tell new beekeepers to do it, right? Is to give them everything possible, every fighting chance to make it through the winter. Here on the eastern shore of Maryland, the temperature goes like this, right? Which creates moisture, right? And as we all know, cold doesn't necessarily kill bees, as I said earlier. It does to a point, right? I've been very successful with single brood management. I know there's a lot of different discussions out there about single brood management. I've also been very successful, believe it or not, in the last few years. This is maybe one of those things that I'm giving away, that tips you guys want to get from me, is double nukes, right? 5-frame, 1 5-frame. And a reason why is because just the structure of the box, it's 10 frames, the same as a single deep, right? But that double nuke over a nuke, for some reason, I get 0% loss rate every year for the last at least 2 years, since I really started doing it heavily, where I do have, moderate losses, 20, 30% losses on the single brood. I think the biggest strategy that I've learned recently in the last 2 or 3 years would be that volume is key, right? If you're a beekeeper and you want to come out of the winter with 5 hives, then go in with 10. That's what my mentor told me when I first started keeping bees. He said, Jason, your goal this year, your first year, is to go into winter. I said, he goes, how many hives do you want to have in the spring? I said, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. That's when I was first learning. And he said, well, good, go in with 10. And my eyes lit up. I'm like, 10 beehives? I don't know how I can handle 2 or 3. How can I handle 10? And then I quickly learned why he said that, right? Because if you go into winter with more than you want to come out and you double that or whatever it is, then, that's how you're going to survive. And its volume is really the way it is. So there's a couple techniques, Greg, that I've used here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, where the weather is up and down. 2 years ago, I think it was, I did a video. It's kind of another funny one. It was like a fireside chat with me on Jan 1st. And I was so mad at myself because I had a bunch of colonies that died due to too much moisture, because I use screen bottom boards here as well as single brood management. I use screen bottom boards year round. That's just a technique that I've used. It doesn't mean it works for everybody or will work everywhere. It just works for me. Well, I put in the screen bottom mite boards because I thought, oh, there's an upcoming winter storm coming and I want to keep the chill down on my bees. So I put that board in and I forgot about it. I came back a couple weeks later to check on them. I pulled some of the boards out on them, and literally as I pulled the boards out, water poured out of the bottom of those boards. Moisture that had just built up inside and just condensated within that bottom of that. And that's really what, in my opinion, I didn't think that through. I needed to pull those boards out just a little bit to get a little airflow, right? I needed to pull them out completely, whatever the case may be. So I was kicking myself on that fireside chat because, I said, beekeepers make mistakes. You'll learn, right? There's lots of things that you're going to learn as a new beekeeper, as an old beekeeper. And if you stop learning and you think you know everything, well, then you might as well hang the craft up, right? Because I think I say it all the time, because every year it teaches me something different. This year, I did a lot of different things going into winter. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Knock on wood, I come out with
Yeah.
enough volume of bees that I can do what I want to do next year.
Well, let me just tell y'all, I'm having so much fun with this, especially this most recent conversation, because if you're watching the feed, we got people chiming in from all over the country. We even had one person, I think, from New Zealand talking about how it's summer there. And isn't that just cool? I mean, we're connected to people. We got 95 folks on here from all over the place, and everybody's managing them a little different because it's a little different in each spot.
Awesome.
To your point, Jason, about the double stack nukes, and hope I understood you correctly. But one thing that I've found, I've had tremendous success with double stack nukes as well. It's so easy in the spring when you have double stack nukes. To me, the bees just seem to grow faster in nukes. I don't know if it's because it's more narrow. I don't know what it is, but they shoot right up through those things. They're such an effective tool. In the spring, I like to do my first splits into nukes, and then when they queen it, we make sure they're queen right and everything. I'll stack them up double, and then when they build up in the second box, I just make sure there's brood in both boxes. Pull the top box off.
Yep.
I can even stick a queen cell on either one, or you can shake them all in the bottom box, put a queen excluder in, let the bees go back up on the brood up above, and then you can take the one above and put a mated queen in there. But going through winter, if you do that with even double, triple, even quadruple stack boxes, if some of you may have seen, I had a video a couple of years ago where I lost I think it was a 4 deep nuke box, 5-frame nuke box that just was blown up. It was basically a double deep, obviously the same space. And I thought they were in good shape. I kept peeking in there. In the wintertime, they were just all the way to the top. And what happened was I did not feed them like I should have, and they starved. But that I had intentions on splitting that joker into 4 colonies. It's so easy with nuke boxes to do that. I'm not sure up north. It sounds like you guys, it works well for you. I've heard you can overwinter nukes up north as well.
That's
but down here,
go-to,
man, you can stack those jokers up as long as they don't fall over or blow over.
I've overwintered 3-frame nukes before. 3 frames, 1 brood, 2 stores. I don't know how, but I've done it, and they come out booming in the spring. It's amazing. Depending on the volume of bees going into the fall, going into the winter, is really how I judge whether I think they're going to make it or not. And that's really why my theory is on the double nukes. I actually recently received my master beekeeping certification from University of Montana, and my final paper was on that very concept of the 5-frame double nuke versus a Langstroth single deep. And I talked about the humidity, the temperature, and looking at the differences in how fast they drew comb, how fast the brood nest grew. All of that was just so interesting because it was different on how. And I think you had, Brian, you had earlier, vertical. They're moving up, right? And they move up like a column of a tree. Really, that's how they work when they do that. And so I think that plays a role in it. And I think it's not the silver bullet. Believe me, I don't want everybody to think that they leave this and then next year everybody's double stacking nukes and that's the way you do it, or going to single deeps. You have to figure out what works for you. There's a missing factor here, and I wish we had someone that was a queen rearer or breeder here on. I think different types of breeds of bees behave differently in different regions. So Greg, you breed, right?
Yeah, we've that's you're spot on with that. Another thing is just to piggyback on the front end of that, what you're mentioning there, Jason. The double nuke thing is something that it's a very undervalued tool in the bee yard, and especially if you are like us, you sell nukes and queens. It's one of the, not only is it a nice insurance policy in the bee yard, even if you're running honey to charge up those boxes coming into the spring, but you take double deeps, or we sell mediums and deeps as far as nukes. And when you can stack a deep and a medium, 5 framers on top, they go through the winter, they come out. There's so many different ways to go about that, splitting each box 2 times, 3 times even. If you've got the right blossoms on, drop cells in, drop queens, you can just go to town. But it's if you're not already using double nukes, folks, you really should look into it and give it a chance, because you would be surprised. Like Jason mentioned, we've had colonies that are literally the size of your fist. That'll be in a 3-frame box or a 5-framer that's split in half. Healthy bees can withstand way more than I think we give them credit for. Now, if they're sick at all, or you're struggling with mites and viruses, different ball game. It's a whole other set of things. But what you were talking about as far as queens is we've kind of migrated to more of the New World Carniolan and Caucasian genetics. We spent some time with Bob Benny and brought a lot of that stock back, and I noticed immediately going into the fall, those rascals are shutting down a lot sooner than the Italians. They're holding a way tighter cluster, and it's kind of the first time you see it, it scares you because you're looking in a box. We've kind of migrated to mostly 4-way pallets. I'm looking in these boxes, and I've got these clusters, and I'm thinking, what in the world's going on? But here they are, just a buzzing along. It gets warm. They're doing their thing. They're looking healthy, and they're slowly growing. They're more of a controlled slope down and a more controlled slope up, and that really does make a huge difference. So not only does the methods of equipment type and size and how many, you factor in a different strain or characteristics of a bee. Now we're talking about a whole new thing. So it's it definitely keep, if anyone has a problem with ego or pride, I think the first treatment should be beekeeping, because it will humble you over and over and over again.
It will. I'll tell you, I think the biggest thing that I get out of, and I've learned over the last several years, that probably stands out for me, that I've kind of fine-tuned going into this winter, which was bee volume. I learned a lot about the active hive and the necessary bee volume needed to sustain a hive. And that bee volume doesn't need to be 4 deeps or 2 deeps pouring over with bees, right? To Greg's point, that little cluster ball that goes to the winter of Carniolans, again, back to bee volume, right? I mean, that goes back to the single brood management, the double nukes, all these things that we've been talking about. If you understand your bee volume, you can manage your hive through all the various situations, right? Whether it's getting ready prep for winter, whether it's how you want your orientation of your hive bodies, 5/5, whatever it may be, whether you're managing singles, whether you're going to get ready to add another super. I mean, we say that every time when I teach a class. They're like, when do you add more boxes? When do you add a super? And it's like, you got to manage your bee volume. 80% working the frames, 50% coverage. I mean, and when it gets to that point, you got to make a decision on something, right? And then going into winter, if you've got 2 deeps pouring over with bees, split them. Throw a queen in another one. You've got two solid beehives going into winter. One dies, you come out with one. It's managing your bee volume. I think, Bruce, that's really what it comes down to me is, if I have 75, if I have 150, if I have whatever amount of hives I have, it's sort of moot at this point. If I'm a hobbyist and I have 5 and I'm trying to get 5 strong hives, then I've got to do every little thing I can think of to maintain those 5 hives. But if I have more than that, then bee volume is what I manage, honestly.
We had so much fun talking to Jason that evening, and I really liked this particular clip about overwintering bees, the different configurations of colonies. I learned that you can overwinter bees in the north in nukes and double nukes and all kinds of configurations. The bees really are pretty tough. Also, a lot of other valuable information when it comes to winter bees. We do these live stream team beekeeping chats on Wednesday evenings at 8 o'clock Eastern. We rotate through our 3 channels here at Bruce's Bees. Also, Greg's channel at Nature's Image Farm and Brian's channel at Castle Hives. If you subscribe to this channel, you can also go in and check out these Stream Team Nuggets in the playlist entitled Stream Team Nuggets. We have a Facebook page called the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. You can go join us there to find out about upcoming videos and events. Really appreciate y'all watching. There'll be more to come. Y'all take care, be safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.